All right, Deal Finders, we're back with another episode of the podcast with an incredible guest. We're going to talk about how Brent Bowers went from a young entrepreneur to losing his business, having to join the military just to get started again. And he took the courage to jump into real estate and to make that the way he would retire himself from his day job. Y'all, he's got an incredible niche, and he's going to show you the steps that he took to start this business and profit from raw land. You don't want to miss it. Here we go. All right, here we are with Brent Bowers. And Brent, let's just get started. You tell us a little bit about you, maybe 30 seconds of where you came from, how you ended up in real estate.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Okeechobee, Florida. How did I end up in real estate? I wanted to be somebody one day, and I wanted to do it with assets. I thought that I was going to become this multi-millionaire buying rental properties. Bought that first one, and let me tell you, it was the road through the gutter. It almost caused me a divorce. I ended up, joining the military in 2009 because I started in the real estate in 2007, went through 2008. It was tough times. I was a big quitter. Wow. I threw in the towel. I went back to school to, change things over and just kind of get a reset on life. I mean, I literally ended up having to move in with my in-laws, lost my business, couldn't pay my bills. So times were pretty tough back in those early days of me starting out in real estate. So it was not the prettiest story, that's for sure. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Ultimately, while I was in the military, that first marriage failed because I was gone all the time. And then, the Army pulled me out of the second deployment to Afghanistan, and I went to college, and I got back into real estate. 2013, I started house hacking, then met the beautiful woman of my dreams that I'm married to today. We started having babies, and guess what? History was repeating itself. I was gone all the time again with the military, so I had to figure out some answers. I started listening to, things like the Deal Finders podcast and searching for answers, and I heard a guy doing land. And I'm here to talk about that today, how land just changed my life. It absolutely changed my life. It allowed me to quit my job. I haven't had a job just like you since 2018.
We both, it's not retirement, as we heard in our mastermind the other day. I don't know if you caught this. It's not retirement, it's rewirement. So we're not sitting down doing nothing. We've rewired our brains to be entrepreneurs and live the life that we create with our jobs. But hey, you know what? You did have a tough go at this. And, like you said, you already had a successful business and then lost that or almost lost that and, joined the military as a last ditch effort. Like, please, I need some help. I got to know, how in the world did you come out of the military and then think, you know what, maybe real estate is okay?
Yeah, I was just actually writing that down. Not retirement, but rewirement. I want to do some content on that because holy cow, that's powerful, by the way. And no, I didn't catch it. Thanks for bringing that up. Because I'm not sitting around on my butt. I've got a fire underneath me. Like, I always want to go. But we have to remember why we got into this business is to, to serve God, have time with our families. Like today, I got to go to lunch with my oldest son. Like, I could have never done that in the military. But how did I go back into real estate? I knew that was ultimately the calling for me because here's the thing. There are more wealthy people that come from real estate than any other profession. Like, so many people are afraid to hire an attorney because they cost $350 an hour. Well, I loved it when I would do a land deal and make like $30,000, and my attorney would send me a bill for like $900. 3, 6, 9. That's like 3 hours of his work. But I only spent 3 hours to make 30 grand. So like, I had a little bit of a competition thing. And no, I'm not smart enough to be an attorney. I could never, ever be an attorney. And if any attorneys are listening to this, like, holy crap, I can't even believe what you guys go through to become attorneys. I could barely pass high school. That's why I couldn't join the Air Force. They would not take me. The Army let anybody in, I guess. So going back into real estate, I knew that was the way. Plus, I could get a VA loan with zero down. And I knew I rented out the rooms and I made money to live there in that house. Only thing better than that was land.
There you go. So I love what you said there. You're a go-getter. You started out, in high school starting a business, right? And you are wired that way to keep going. And real estate it's well known, right? Well, I say it's well known. We know it pretty well that a lot of more wealthy people come from real estate than anywhere else. So you knew that. You trusted the breadcrumbs of the people before you. Y'all success leaves clues. And Brent was wise enough to say, you know what, that I may have made some mistakes the first go around with this real estate game, but I now, after listening to podcasts and learning from other experienced investors and connecting, getting in a community, he realized that he can make this work if he does it the right way. Guys, there's tons of ways to make real estate investing work. There's also a few dozen ways to make it go wrong, right? So, but if you have that community, you have the people you can lean on, the mentors, the coaches, the podcast, you can limit those mistakes and succeed. And I think the biggest thing is you had the permission to try again because you'd seen success before you, right? Could you just talk about what that first step was when you were like, I'm going back in? Because our podcast, a lot of listeners are trying to take that first step. Tell us what that first step looked like. How did you get over that scariness of doing that?
Yeah, and before I do that, I want to talk about those breadcrumbs because that's so true. One of the first books I ever read that was not a fiction book, it was a nonfiction book, was The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump. I remember sitting in my room as a young, I think I was in middle school reading this thing. And this is before he was president of the United States. Look, this guy started in real estate. But I loved that book, The Art of the Deal. So many people are like, oh, Rich Dad, Poor Dad changed my life. But no, The Art of the Deal changed my life. But going back those first steps, I was scared. I was scared to death. But here's the thing. The fear of me having another divorce happen, this time children involved, the fear of me training for combat deployment number 3. Here's what they don't talk about. In the military, we have to train up for almost a year before we go and deploy for 6 or 9 months. My first deployment was almost a year, or right at 2 days short of a year. My second one was only 4 months, thank God. And the third one was going to be 9 months. But here's the thing, I always in the field for almost a year prior. So I had to move my wife and my newborn son back to Florida. I wasn't seeing them but once a month for 4 days when I'd get a little break. So my fear of oh my God, history is going to repeat itself. I'm going to lose another wife. And here's the thing, I didn't want that happening. So I started taking massive, violent, imperfect action. And I say imperfect and violent because there was so many mistakes that I made. The first list I mailed, I thought I was mailing the tax delinquent list. So I went and got with the county. I wanted a list of people that were not paying their back taxes for their land. And where did this idea come from? Again, I heard it on a podcast. A guy was doubling his money with vacant raw land. There's no houses on it. There's no contractors needed. None of that stuff. And I was very short on time and broke. So I was kind of in a sucky situation. But I went to the county treasurer's office. Some states call it the tax collector, whatever. The people that control the list of people that have to pay their property taxes. And I asked for the tax delinquent list. And they sent me this massive 600 pages of scanned in documents. And I was losing my mind trying to figure out this. I figured out a way to figure out what was the vacant raw land, what was the houses. And finally we figured that out. And I did a little video on Screencast-O-Matic free. You can do 15 free videos. And I hired a virtual assistant because I would read the 4-hour work week. I was I was studying the 4-hour work week, more than I was studying the Bible. And I kind of I had to pull away from that because I was this is genius. And I felt bad because I was just learning. I was I can leverage everything with virtual assistants because I had to. There'd be weeks I would go without my phone training with the military. So I had to have a virtual assistant help me. So I taught her how to scrub this list. and we mailed out 687 postcards, the tribe postcard. We were talking about this the other day at the mastermind. It said, hey, my name is Brent. I'd like to buy your land at 123 Main Street, or most of the time it didn't even have an address, so it would say El Paso County, Colorado, because I was doing this where I was stationed at in Fort Carson, Colorado. If you're interested in all fast or all cash fair priced offer, call me or text me. God bless you. All handwritten, sent out 687 of those, did 2 land deals from it. And that's how I got started. And boy, did I make some mistakes, but I made some money really quickly. And I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And before I knew it, I had enough passive income, truly money coming in my bank account every month to cover my expenses. And that was my ticket, like, to glory, like to quit my job. I had to put in a packet to get out of the military, and it was approved 3 years later, 2018.
Wow. Dude, what an incredible story. That there's so much in there to unpack. The biggest part is it took you 3 years to get out of the military, right? They're like holding on to you. They won't let you go, right? So
I had a contract.
You get a contract, guys. Even if you're in the the regular workforce or whatever, they don't want to let you go because you're a valuable resource. Imagine how it could be if you're using your valuable resource for yourself and building your own wealth and for your family. So, you don't have to quit your job to do that, but that is possible when you have that passive cash flow. So you said use the breadcrumbs. You heard about land flipping on a podcast, probably similar to this one. Y'all, there's so much information out there on these podcasts, YouTube. You could just go to Chat GPT now and ask it questions, right? There's all of this information's available, but if you don't have someone there to help you, like you said, you use the Rhino postcard. So the community there, the instruction, the 1, 2, 3, go do this. You can make a lot of mistakes or just take a lot of time. You were able to jump in, go super fast. You said 600 and something postcards and 2 deals out of that. That's incredible. That's what you get with raw land, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute. So let's dive in. Let's give some action steps to our listeners, because that's what this podcast is all about. We can just have fun and hear about all the beautiful things and how wonderful your life is, Brent, but that's not going to help anybody on this podcast. So let's give them some action steps. You pulled a list, tax delinquent list. So that's number 1. You sent a postcard. That's number 2. I think you even kind of read through what the postcard is. Then what happened?
So what happened then was that first landowner, I remember the call. It was a very simple call. He's like, hey, I'm a retired CPA. I traded for this land many years ago. I've been paying the taxes for all these years. I just want to just unload it. You can have it for $285. But Brent, the land's not buildable. So I had to figure out what he meant by that. So I was like, hey, can you give me like a week? Because I need to drive out to it on Saturday when I have a day off. I brought my wife. I brought a newborn baby. I brought one of my Army officer friends, Michael. He's like, this is stupid. Like, I can't believe you're buying this, because he was a stock trader as well. And, anyhow, we were arguing the whole way back. I was like, nah, man, this is actual tangible. I can grow stuff on it. Like, what are you going to do with those stocks? Like, some CEO makes a decision and your money's gone. I remember that conversation. But the next step was I went and looked at the land, and I figured out why it wasn't buildable. The city just wasn't allowing a road to go over the railroad tracks, and the fire department only had 1 ingress, 1 egress, and it was on the side of the mountain. So they would not allow houses to be built. But right down the street, there's $800,000 houses selling. So it's like prime real estate if they ever figure that situation out, which they still haven't. And I called so when we're leaving, I was like, I have no idea what this is worth. So I called the real estate office right down the street. It's like God planted that office for me to see. Success leaves clues, by the way. And I call the real estate office. Someone picks up, this nice realtor, and I was like, hey, here's the land I'm looking at. I wanted to see if you can list it for me, but I need to know, what is the 30-day blowout price? What's the get it done now price? Because $285, I didn't tell her what I was paying for it, but $285 for me back in early 2016 was like telling me like it was going to cost me like, I don't know, $200,000, because I didn't have money. Like we had groceries and diapers we had to buy and all this stuff. And So she goes, I don't know about like 30 days, but I think you can sell it for about 10 grand on the MLS. And I was like, you're kidding me, right? So I hung up the phone with her. I said, I'll call you when I buy it. So I hung up, and I'm telling my wife, and she calls me right back and offers me $5,000. Well, basically, long story short, she's like, hey, what if I buy it? I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. What are you offering? She goes, $5,000. And I think she was like, thought she was giving me an anchor price. I was like, I'm a really good negotiator. So I said, let's do it. Send me the purchase agreement. So she had me that agreement before I got home. I had a 45-minute ride to get to my house. I signed it. I called the seller. I said, hey, can I? And she wanted to close on Wednesday the following week.
Wow.
Like fast. I cannot believe this happened still to this day. I called the seller. I said, hey, can I pay you Tuesday? So I got my quit claim deed. I didn't do any title searches, which is stupid on my part. Didn't do any, none of that stuff. No title research. I bring the quit claim deed to the land title insurance company, and that was Tuesday night. Wednesday, I go and pick up my certified check for $5,000. So I just traded $285 for $5,000. I was like, holy crap, this is crazy. I'm actually going to meet a second seller on that very next Saturday. And I bought that one for $500. And it just kept going and going. But that second one, that was the best deal of my life. I got it for $500. And when I got the purchase agreement with this lady, even before I bought it, I started advertising it on Craigslist. I had my buyer waiting for me that Sunday with $500 down and $400 a month. So I was profitable immediately and forever. Not like rental properties.
Beautiful.
I didn't have to go out and get a loan.
Beautiful. Yeah. So we're going to jump into that right now. I want to dive on something that you hit. So guys, send a list, use the postcard. It's an amazing way to get to people. One of the things I wanted to point out is you said you called a real estate agent. You used a professional. Y'all, real estate agents, other wholesalers, flippers, builders. There are people that, like, real estate is their job. They do this 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Utilize them. If you're new to investing, if you're new trying to find your first, second, third deal, whatever that is, use the professionals. Call them. Ask questions. Lean on them because they do this all the time. Whatever your job is now, imagine this being their job. So they have knowledge and clues that you don't know anything about. So you were able to call in your first phone call, luckily, and she probably was kind of, stealing it a little bit from you, but now that was an anchor 5K. You probably would have gone up to 7, but you got it done because you were brave enough. You had enough courage to ask questions. We say this all the time in our Deal Finders group and in our local community is ask questions. Be brave enough to not know the answer and to hear what other people have to say. So I love that you did that, leaning on professionals, leaning on your the people around you to get this done. So let's dive in. You've given some incredible action steps to help people get started, maybe find that first deal, but you are the land guy. You're the land shark, right? So let's tell people why land is different. And now, guys, real estate investing, there's so many different ways to make money in this game. And so land is a potential niche that you may want to say, you know what, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to attack it. So listen up, listen to the reasons why. We actually just talked about a land deal we did. It can be very lucrative in vacant raw land. So Brent, tell me why I would consider vacant raw land, because normally I pull a list or I'm driving around, I see houses that need help. What about land?
Yeah, I know, and it was so fun interviewing you on the Wholesaling Inc. podcast because you talked about that land deal you paid $200 for and sold for $30,000 to a motivated buyer. Like, where else do you have motivated buyers at? Like, this guy had to buy that land because he had already sold his other house that he was living in. So that was powerful. Good podcast, man. 30 minutes went by like in a blink of an eye. I enjoyed it. But here's why I believe land is better. Here's why I know land is better, because I'm not the smartest person. I barely made it through high school, but when I see people on the news, they've been on the news since I was in elementary school, like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. These guys are smart, right? why are these guys buying so much land right now in 2023 when the market's crashing, like everything's falling, like we're going into a recession? Why are these guys buying land? I don't know, but they are smart with money. Like, so I'm going to follow what they do. And here's the thing, like there's virtually no competition with this because people drive by this land every day and they don't see a way to make money. They don't see Airbnbs. They don't see rental houses. They don't see a ugly dump house they can find on the condemned list and, you know, fix it up and flip it. Banks aren't lending on this stuff either. So that creates a huge opportunity for a small guy like me, you know, huge opportunity, but it also hurts the land sellers. I shouldn't say hurts it. It makes the land sellers have to do two things. One, give me a smoking hot deal because not everyone's walking around with $50,000, $60,000 cash. So they let it go for really cheap sometimes. Or two, they seller finance it to me because they want, you know, they want $50,000 and the only way I can give it to them is by making payments every month. And let's just say these payments are, I don't know, $1,000 a month. I just said that I'm going to pay off that land in 50 months. I didn't talk about interest, did I? Now I'm going to take that land. Let's just say it's worth $50,000, and I just paid $50,000, but I had the smoking hot seller finance deal. Like that's better than any bank's going to give me. Now I find you, Andrew, and you want the land really, really bad, but you don't have $50,000, but you have $1,500 a month, and you're willing to do this for, you know, 30 years at 12% interest. So you're paying me $1,100 or $1,200 a month. I'm collecting the interest, and over that time, I'm going to make a profit on it. Like we just did a land deal the other day. We bought for $40,000 and sold it for $90,000.
Wow!
Like it's and oh by the way, I ended up using my mother-in-law to lend on that one. We're paying her 9% interest on her $40,000, and then our buyer gave us $5,000 down, so he's got a $85,000 loan for 13 and a half years. He pays us $946 a month. I pay my mother-in-law $800 a month. So I got the $5,000 up front. We pocketed that because people are like, didn't you pay your lender back? Heck no. Like, that's my money. And I'm also collecting the difference of $946 minus $800, so about $146 a month for 5 years, 60 months. And then at 5 years, I keep the whole $946 a month for another almost 8.5 years. So that's $101,000 net profit on that deal that cost me zero money.
That's incredible. That is, and guys, he's talking big numbers here. He's talking about really great deals, $101,000 where he has nothing out of pocket. Y'all, this is real estate. This is real life opportunities. But you've got to be able to take the action, right, and get going and take these steps. I want to make sure we hit on one piece that what really makes, I think, what makes land unique and different in the real estate is you said it, that banks won't lend on raw vacant land. Sometimes if you're building, you can roll it into your mortgage and pay it, and basically you have to refinance in a year. But they don't want to lend on raw vacant land. So but people want it, right? Like you said, Bill Gates is in there buying it like crazy. But normal people want raw land for a lot of different reasons. You know, it might be just for fun. It could be to go build on later, to put a trailer or mobile home on or whatever. People want the land. They don't have a way to finance it. People that have the land need to sell it. They're tired of it. They don't want it, but no one can finance it to buy it. So there's this gap. And so you're filling that gap. And one thing that I don't remember who said it, but we use it in our business now is we're not. There's some houses that are just bad, and the deal isn't good. We're not selling those properties anymore. We're just selling the financing. We are selling the opportunity to get someone into a property that they wouldn't normally have that opportunity. Whether it's because it's the house needs work, or it's just one of those low price points in an area where people don't pay that much, where banks don't want to lend, or the house it's an investor type property, right? So what you're doing is yes, it has to do with the land, but it's more about solving a problem and a gap in the marketplace. You are selling and giving that opportunity for buyers to get something they want, and a seller to get rid of something they want to get rid of. Is that fair? Does that sound right?
Yeah. Heck yeah. And once again, the banks, I think they know how money works. So there's a reason why they're the biggest, prettiest building in every city in every state. Like when you see these big skyscrapers, like what does it usually say at the top of it? Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Truist. Like here's what banks do. They make profit and then they re-lend that profit. It's literally like their little babies are making even more babies, aka the profit, the interest that they make, and then they re-lend that out. Like that might seem scary to some people, but here's the thing, like we're becoming the bank. And I don't see where the banks ever lose hardly. We're not talking about 2008, 2009, but like if we're buying the land at a crazy discount, $40,000, we have a buyer waiting for us at $90,000. And you know how I was able to find that buyer? Because it took me a few months to purchase this land because it had to go through some like title issues, probate. I was able to market the entire time and have this buyer waiting. He was beating down our door to pay us that $5,000. And that allowed me to have that buyer waiting. And it's like, I couldn't fail. And my mother-in-law, my lender, she's in a sweet spot as well, because here's the thing. Her loan is at less than 50% loan to value. So if I don't pay, which I'd be stupid not to, like Thanksgiving meals would be weird after that. She could take the land, and now she's got this amazing asset. And why would I not pay? What if my buyer backs out? What if he leaves? Well, gosh, I'll take the land back. I keep his $5,000 and his payments. He's made every payment on time for the last 2 months. I'm going to sell it to someone else, maybe even more this time, because he's been out there mowing it and just built a picket fence. Like it's crazy what they do.
He's making it pretty for you. So yeah, you're helping out a lot of people. You got the lenders working well, the sellers, the buyers, everybody's happy. At our Deal Finders Live, our local event last night, actually, my message was, be a problem solver. Solve problems for the sellers, and then you'll solve problems for the buyers because they're looking for deals, they're looking for property. And if you get involved and help your lenders, you're solving their issues because they need to lend the money out. They want to make interest, the banks, whoever it is. So you're being a problem solver, and you have found this amazing niche in land that, like you said, very little competition, because it's not, I hate to say, it's not, sexy and pretty. It's not on HGTV. You don't flip the land and make this really cool before and after video. It's just not as.
I should.
Well,
I really
could.
should.
Now it's got a picket fence on it. So yeah.
I thought about doing a joke before the land's same, and then after
exactly
the land's same.
But that's why there's not as much competition. So I love this, Brent. I love that you are sharing this with your community and people out there. If someone wanted to reach out to you or learn more, how do they find you and your community to learn more about land?
Man, I just started TikToking. I am making a video each day on how to make money in land. Brent L. Bowers 1 is my TikTok handle. And that L, yes, that means land. Brent L. Bowers 1 is my TikTok handle. And if you need some help, you want me to coach you along the way and show you how to build this process, go to wholesalinginc.com/land. That's wholesalinginc.com/land.
Guys, this has been one of my best podcasts. I love hearing about land. I love the process, the way that you go about it. Like I said, we used to just send mail to houses. We would take land out of the data, and that was 2 or 3 years of dumminess, right? Just like didn't know what we were doing, and then we talked to some mentors and like, what are you doing? You can do something with that land. And we added it in probably 2.5 years ago, and it's been a significant revenue stream. It's just part of the business now. And so very thankful for that. I'm so excited for what you're sharing and helping people do. If you're here listening to this and you have not taken the first step, if you're just listening, gathering information, but you're ready to join a community of action takers and go-getters, then check out dealfinderslive.com. You want to go there. We have resources for you. And if you're interested in joining a community that will help push you along, push you to your next deal or your first deal, then you can apply there and we'll see if you were a good fit for us. But in the meantime, y'all stay tuned to the next podcast. This has been an incredible episode of Deal Finders Podcast with Brent Bowers, and we'll see you next time. See ya.